Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, amid growing global disillusionment with India's false and fabricated narratives, Pakistan has emerged with a strengthened diplomatic posture gaining international traction. From Kashmir to water weaponization and India's state-sponsored terrorism, Pakistan's principled diplomacy, strategic restraint and global engagement are actually reshaping perceptions, even acknowledged by sane voices within India's own political ranks. This shift stems from proactive outreach by Pakistan's leadership from the United Nations to the key global capitals. Pakistan has effectively countered Indian propaganda, exposed state-sponsored terrorism in Pakistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Also, the atrocities, genocide and war crimes going on in the occupied territory of Kashmir. And highlighted India's hegemonic drive through Hindutva ideology. As India faces increasing diplomatic isolation, the world is beginning to take Pakistan's narrative seriously. To talk on this very important aspect, we have in our studios Dr. Tauqeer Hussain Sargana. He is Assistant Professor of International Relations at the Islamic International University, Islamabad. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence here. And with him, Mr. Hamza Amir Khalil, he is international relations expert. Thank you very much, Hamza, for your presence. And online joining us, Dr. Waseem Ishaque, he is international affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahab, for being with us online. But before starting the question answer session, let's go to the video, watch it and listen. What Indian National Congress Media and Publicity Department Chairman Pon Khera said about Indian Modi regime's diplomacy and about Pakistan's successes.
रशिया ने पाकिस्तान की एक पुरानी स्टील मिल जो बंद हो चुकी थी उसके साथ कोलैबोरेशन की। $2.6 बिलियन इसमें पाकिस्तान को मिलेगा। ये रशिया जो हमारा पुराना साथी, परंपरागत मित्र, वो अब पाकिस्तान के साथ हाथ मिला रहा है। अभी मोदी जी की सरकार जब से बनी है तब से MI-35 रशिया ने पाकिस्तान को दिए। कोई सोच नहीं सकता था कि रूस और पाकिस्तान इतने करीब आ जाएंगे, लेकिन आपके सामने है। कुवैत, गल्फ, ईरान, सबके समझौते पाकिस्तान से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बाद हो रहे हैं। कुवैत ने वीजा की रेस्ट्रिक्शन हटा दी है। हो क्या रहा है ये विदेश नीति में? और विदेश नीति पे सवाल उठाओ, सब आप राष्ट्र विरोधी हो। सुरक्षा नीति पर सवाल उठाओ, राष्ट्र विरोधी हो। ये कब तक आप राष्ट्र विरोधी कह कहकर सवालों से बचेंगे? और पूरे देश में घूम रहे हैं कपड़े बदल बदल के, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, ऑपरेशन। अरे आप ये जरा अपनी गिरेबान में झांक कर देखिए ना कि कहां ले आए आप भारत को। अमेरिका धमका रहा है, कह रहा है हमने व्यापार रोकने की धमकी दी, इसलिए ऑपरेशन सिंदूर रुका। आपकी हिम्मत नहीं हो रही एक जवाब देने की। और कोलंबिया जैसा देश पाकिस्तान के साथ खड़ा, भूटान, नेपाल, श्रीलंका, कौन आपके साथ खड़ा हुआ था ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में? ये हम नहीं पूछेंगे। और सबसे ज्यादा, जैसा मैंने आपको कहा, ये दुखदाई विषय है कि रशिया आज पाकिस्तान के साथ खड़ा हुआ MOU साइन कर रहा है। लेकिन सवाल भारत सरकार की विदेश नीति पर उठ रहे हैं और उठने बिल्कुल स्वाभाविक हैं। जब आप अलग थलग पड़ जाओ, इतना 11 साल में आपने 100-150 यात्राएं कर ली, 10-11 बार अमेरिका हो आए, 18 बार आपने झूला, जिनके साथ झूलने का बड़ा शौक है इनको, कौन है वो चाइनीज प्रीमियर, उनके साथ मिलाए। क्या मिला आपको? चाइना पाकिस्तान के साथ खड़ा।
This is the situation. How India is actually frightened because of the Pakistan surge in diplomacy and how Pakistan is actually pursuing its diplomatic front. This is very important. My first question to you, Dr. Tauqeer, it is not only the Indian opposition, Indian National Congress, but also the different ranks of the Indian ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and its allies, even sane voices like independent journalists, think tanks and writers admitting that Pakistan had successfully elevated the Kashmir issue, water and terrorism issues in the international fora. Now, Pakistan's strategic narrative is starting to resonate globally, and this is because of the strategic deterrence, principled democracy and the sustained international involvement. How much it is correct right now?
So thank you very much, Faisal, for inviting me at your show. It is very important to understand the ongoing discourse which India wants to reinterpret in its favor. The kind of interpretation which India has been doing so far, it was a geopolitical space where India always get a space to isolate Pakistan or corner Pakistan. But right now in the 21st century, Pakistan's credible contribution in the international, not only in the international system, but also the credibility in terms of mitigating those challenges which were challenges of the international community. And Pakistan has not only played a frontline role to mitigate those challenges, but also created a space for itself in terms of exposing Indian propaganda and false flag narratives against the region. The region has been at stake because of India's undue exercise of warmongering and jingoistic political narratives in South Asia, which is why we have to look into the broader picture of nation state. For example, when we come and try to understand the evolution of state, we have seen that one of the most significant credentials that any state has acquired so far, it is the respect for human rights. When we look at the evolution of international system, we have came a point where we have realized that all nation states have acquired the credentials of diplomacy in terms of using it to resolve and mitigate their long-standing disputes. So when it comes to track record of India, we have seen that India cannot qualify to become even a state because the kind of human rights violations India is doing in illegally occupied Indian Kashmir within mainstream India, within political spectrum, as well as the way it has been violating United Nations mandate, resolutions and the international law. We have seen that India cannot qualify to become a responsible country within the domain of human rights and diplomacy. Contrary to that, when we see Pakistan's record within these 8 decades, Pakistan has showed resolve, restraint and strength to the international community that whether the challenges are global or regional, Pakistan's response is always in support of strategic stability. Indian track records from 1970s, we know that when India, on the name of so-called Smiling Buddha, they violated international non-proliferation commitments. And Pakistan has to respond to that.
And again in Shakti 2 they have
done the same thing
in 1998. But
exactly.
The fact of the matter is that Pakistan actually shown that responsibility, and that's why this whole region is bit flourishing. Although India is a huge hurdle in that, but due to the irresponsible behavior of the Indian state, this whole region is suffering actually. Your point well taken. Hamza, do you not think that the Pakistan's policy of proactive diplomacy, even during the conflict situation, putting maximum restraint, as Dr. Saab highlighted, the well-calibrated and calculated response against even Indian attack lies on the Pahalgam incident, fake labels of terrorism, unilateral suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, misleading the world on Kashmir issue, all bounced back badly, and world realized about Indian state's blatant lies.
Faisal, if you ask any rational Indian that what is the status of Pahalgam investigation, the response would be that the investigation is ongoing. And if you ask them that if the investigation is ongoing, why did you attack Pakistan, they will be left clueless. They do not have any answer.
The Ministry of External Affairs, their spokesperson categorically on record said in response to a question that Pahalgam incident investigations are still on, and I can't comment on that. And I don't want to jump the gun, but why the gun was actually fired before that?
Let me elaborate, because it was a complete false flag operation
orchestrated
by the Indian intelligence, and they deliberately allowed it to happen. Pakistan had been a victim of terrorism for past 2.5 decades, yet we never struck Hindustan despite knowing that the terrorism in Pakistan is sponsored by Hindustan. Secondly, if you see, we should have been proactive in diplomacy long before the Pahalgam incident, because we know from the patterns that whenever Hindustan is in trouble or the elections are allowed to take place, you will see a terrorist attack happening inside Hindustan. And coming to your second part, yes, Pakistan showed maximum restraint. Our response was calculated, precise, but brutal. And that is the reason that India begged for ceasefire, and their highest echelons are constantly lying to their population that it was Pakistan which asked for ceasefire, which is completely false. We never asked for it. because India knew that their air force was grounded and they could no longer continue the war.
Although we welcomed it because Pakistan wants peace and
We
stability in the
want
region.
peace, but we never asked for
Pakistan was not asking for that
Yes.
ceasefire. It was India which was pleading for that when Pakistan responded on 10th of May.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, currently India is exposed. They have been targeting freedom of speech. They have been targeting Twitter accounts and social media accounts. And Pakistan must utilize this opportunity and force India to stop sponsoring terrorism inside Pakistan. They should sit down and resolve Kashmir dispute. And if they are not prepared, we need to give a clear-cut message to the world that whatever will be the consequences, India will be responsible for that.
And I think so we are giving that message because in lots of visits, even Prime Minister, and now during former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari,
Yes,
he is there in United States. First he is meeting there in New York with the UN high-ups and
Yes.
All of other member
Exactly.
countries. So he is highlighting all these issues very pertinently really. So Dr. Waseem, where do actually rate the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's outreach to the brotherly countries of Turkey, Azerbaijan, Iran and Tajikistan? Prime Minister meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Then a delegation also went to Moscow, met with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Earlier, Deputy Prime Minister visited China and met with the leadership. Now some reports suggest that Prime Minister might visit China and the Gulf states as well to discuss the bilateral and the regional situation. How important these engagements are when India evades actually the world with its packs of lies?
Faisal, thank you very much for the invitation. First part of the question, I rate the Prime Minister's head of state diplomacy absolutely exceptional and need of the time. And I think Pakistan as a state and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif as a government head has gained a lot. And we all have demonstrated to the world that Pakistan is a very responsible nation state. And if you go over to the fundamentals of Pakistan's foreign policy, Pakistan is a peace-loving country. We do not have any aggressive designs against any other country. And Pakistan would go a mile extra to ensure peace and stability of Pakistan as well as the South Asian region and the world at large. And this is what we have been doing in the past and we will continue to do so. But let me highlight two strategic imperatives in last almost 25 years, which actually played on in favor of India. In 2001, war on terrorism and US invasion of Afghanistan was probably a defining moment for South Asia. Unfortunately, the hyphenation of India-Pakistan was removed and it was re-hyphenated as FPAC. So that was the defining moment when the United States gave a separate status to India, and while Pakistan was a frontline state against war on terrorism, it was still being targeted by different channels from the United States and the Western media. And despite that, later on, Pakistan became the victim of terrorism. We were not treated equally at par with India. While the India was given a lot of acceptance in the United States, in the West, especially we have seen that Indo-US nuclear deal, NSG waiver, Indo-US strategic partnership, and all previous 25 years, India has flourished a lot. But now this is about time when the world has started to realize that de-hyphenation was probably a greatest mistake. And for the South Asian security and stability, the re-hyphenation of India and Pakistan has emerged as a result of Pahalgam and the Indian aggressive, nefarious designs against Pakistan and Pakistan's very responsible, restraint, and then defensive response to the India. This has also strengthened.
What about the government's special initiative by sending a comprehensive delegation under the leadership of the former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto, held meetings with the United Nations high-ups, particularly the Security Council members, with the high-ups of the US administration, particularly those representing within the United Nations system. And plans are that this delegation will also lead to Europe as well, meet with the European leadership in Brussels and in Britain as well. How effective would it be to change the Western mindset towards India and will start accepting truth as well? And whether we have to approach other countries and the regions as well, like Africa, like ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and the South American countries as well, because the huge continents in the regions left behind. So we have to approach to those regions as well.
Faisal, one, this visit is absolutely timed in a very, very correct manner, and this was a requirement of time. But overall, see that head of state diplomacy, which was initiated by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif by himself, and it is now being followed up by the head of delegations diplomacy, in which the political leaders from different parties have actually joined hands together. I think this is a very right move in a correct direction, and this was required much before. And since many programs, I have been always saying that proactive diplomacy is required by Pakistan, and I think now we have realized the importance of diplomacy. So yeah, we have a very competent delegation comprising of all members of the segments of society and across the political spectrum of Pakistan. So the way they have started the process and the kind of momentum which has been ushered by the Prime Minister himself, I think this delegation would certainly succeed in convincing the international community about the kind of nefarious designs and the aggressive designs which India is holding. And secondly, we probably may not be able to reach out to all the continents and all the regions and international organizations through this small composition. So, but we have a diplomatic relationship and we have embassies abroad in several countries, and similarly, the host embassies over here in Pakistan, we can collaborate through our foreign office. So that way, we need to gear up our diplomatic process of engagement at different tiers. So host embassies of other countries with foreign office here, our embassies in the host countries with their foreign office and their government and their think tanks, their academia, and above all is the delegation like the one we have led by the our ex-foreign minister. So in the overall context, we still have to go beyond that only diplomatic engagement. We need to have a civil society engagement, we need to have a media engagement, we need to have academia engagement. So that way, that will be a sort of whole of government and whole of nation approach, which would, I'm sure, would accrue more dividends, and that would broaden the scope of our engagement with the international community.
Okay, your point well taken. Viewers, you must have listened to the Indians, particularly their propaganda. They have not pleaded, they have not begged for the ceasefire. It was, in fact, never asked for ceasefire, but in fact, it was United States that they have solely announced that, and they have not taken them in confidence. Let's have, first of all, going to the next questions, let's listen to the US President Donald Trump, what he said when at Indian request, the US brokered the ceasefire and Pakistan actually welcomed it.
Let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have.
Now, you have just listened what the US President Donald Trump said. And now, just listen to the Godi media, that how getting the instructions or the dictation of the Modi government, how their media is actually portraying the United States, its administration, and the President Donald Trump, and how they are bashing actually. So just listen and watch what they are saying, right?
World leaders, even those who step in to save India from its own diplomatic and military disasters.
But there was a certain both political heft, statesman-like gravitas, and intellectual quality that I find woefully lacking in this gentleman. But just the personal manner strikes me as not entirely as agreeable or pleasant as one would like to see in a distinguished American political figure.
It's a reflection of a larger, long-standing Indian pattern.
It is not the job of the President of the United States to make a claim when we haven't even agreed that this is a matter which requires his intervention. I think President Trump does not understand the importance of difference between back channel talks or informal diplomacy or clandestine diplomacy or overt diplomacy. Somebody should think this is typical Trump overreach? This is typical Trump overreach.
भारत की संप्रभुता पर अगर कोई उंगली उठाएगा तो वो अमेरिका हो या उसका बाप हो, हमें फर्क नहीं पड़ता है। 11 दिन में 8 बार डोनाल्ड ट्रंप बार-बार कहते हैं और श्रेय लेते हैं मैंने सीज फायर कराया, वो बार-बार कहते हैं मैंने ट्रेड की धमकी दी, उनके यहाँ से वक्तव्य आता है वो हमसे पहले अनाउंसमेंट करते हैं।
मैं डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के विषय में क्यों सोचूं? वो कह रहे मैं कश्मीर पे मध्यस्थता करूंगा। भाई हो कौन आप चौधरी बन के घूम रहे हो?
Beg for help when in crisis, then blame the helper once the dust settles.
You have listened some of the opposition leaders as well as the Bharatiya Janata Party, and one of their parliamentary committee on foreign affairs head, the chairman Shashi Tharoor, who is now heading Indian delegation across the world as well, that for Indian diplomacy, because India are feeling the heat that what is coming to them actually, and this is what they have actually started from Delhi once, and this is all what is, whether it's the illegal occupation of Kashmir, or whether it's terrorism, which is state sponsored by India using as a tool of its foreign policy, or unilateral suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, or there are lots of areas in which India is always very belligerent. So on the contrary, what the Indian media, the Indian Bharatiya Janata Party, the ruling party, and the opposition is saying, most officials are saying, Indian Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar acknowledged in an interview that yes, the United States administration has the role in ceasefire, and they talked to the Modi government. It was the Vice President J.D. Vance and also the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of State of the United States, Marco Rubio. So just listen and watch that what Subramaniam Jaishankar is actually saying.
Well, the US was in the United States. I mean, obviously there were US, Secretary of State Rubio and Vice President Vance had called up. Rubio had spoken to me. Vance had spoken to our Prime Minister. They had their view, and they were talking to us, and they were talking to Pakistanis, as indeed were some other countries.
This is the truth, that actually India pleaded and the US responded. And first of all, they called the Indian Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar, and then the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And soon after that, they called Pakistan as well, and Pakistan welcomed that. So this is the whole story basically, what Indian media, its opposition, and even the Bharatiya Janata Party is actually lying. So Dr. Tauqeer, India seems to be in denial mode. Bashing the US President Donald Trump, you have just witnessed what they are actually saying. Pakistan praised the US administration for facilitating the ceasefire, while by leading Pakistan's delegation to the US, former Foreign Minister Bilal Bhutto actually urged the United States to play its due role in ensuring India-Pakistan dialogue to end India's water weaponization, resolve the Kashmir issue, and take concrete action at the Indian state-sponsored terrorism. Do you not think that the US has a very important role and it's a very serious role they have to be? But whether US is really serious in its approach, or it was just a statement, as there were lots of earlier statements as well, which are really actually the red lines for Pakistan right now.
Faisal, actually the role of United States is very credible when it comes to
and crucial as well.
And crucial as well, you rightly pointed out. United States is not a country that is mimicking about geopolitics or international diplomacy. It's a very serious country. It has strategic interests spread around in the world. So when it comes to India, Pakistan, the South Asia becomes the hotspot for the United States of America in terms of its economic interest as well as the geopolitical interest in this region. And both countries have been positively getting along with the United States of America. So one cannot deny the very positive approach towards settling down the issues of bilateral issues of Pakistan and India. So, but we have to see why India is in denial mode. The particular problem of Indian denial is vested within its own politics, because we know that Indian are not into the contextualization of global norms within its own national governance. They have kept their national governance into a kind of, just like medieval times, dark ages, where,
Do you not think it's a kind of a phenomena that there is an extra air in a balloon?
Yeah.
And it is too much ballooned, really.
Yeah.
So when you release something,
Yeah.
so it means that it's going to be disfigured.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be disfigured right now.
Yeah.
They want to be ballooning the balloon. In a kind of a scenario, so they are actually frightened of that might be their image is going to be disfigured.
I think they have,
because they considered themselves hegemon, and they considered themselves as a world power, although they are not. But they considered
they are living in the post doomsday now.
Okay.
So it's the balloon is already burst. So look at they always internalized Kashmir issue. And they always externalize their domestic issues. So terrorism is their internal issue. They always externalize it. Kashmir is not their internal issue. It's an international issue as per the United Nations resolutions. And we have rightly pointed, Donald Trump is not saying or trying to play its part in mediating Kashmir for the first time. It is for the second time that he is doing it, because in 2019 he has already done that.
Definitely. He offered at that time as well.
And that denial is, Faisal, insecurity vested in the narrative building of India. India not only lost the war in the battlefield, India is losing this war that they wanted to win in information warfare, propaganda warfare, or resetting the narrative. They are actually lost this resetting of narrative as well. So which is, I will not say that it is the win of Pakistan, because Pakistan does not believe on win or lose. Pakistan believes on the strategic stability of South Asia. Pakistan believes on the peaceful coexistence between India and Pakistan. So we just aspire to those Indian sane minds, same voices, that they should not allow Hindutva, RSS, Sangh Parivar to make India Hindustan. Get it back. Make India. If you want to make India great, Pakistan is always there to help you to make India great. We have opened Kartarpur. We are doing great. We are taking great initiatives of diplomacy, bilateral diplomacy, multilateral diplomacy. India needs to come.
Actually, we are taking care of all the religions, because Pakistan is also kind of a cradle of civilizations.
Exactly.
You know that, because most of the religions actually born here.
Yes.
So Pakistan is taking care of each and everyone.
Yes.
So this is what is required in India as well.
Yes. Yes.
So if you are comfortable with your deeds, what you are actually doing, so don't blame others for that. Really. Very right. Hamza, pursuant to the India's Indus Water Treaty suspension, unilateral suspension, and nefarious designs to either stop or divert Pakistani water share is a greatest long-term existential threat to Pakistan's national security. So after examining legal options, do you not think that we have to pursue a policy of pinpointed diplomacy, get benefits of the international disapproval of Indian act of unilateral suspension of Indus Water Treaty, as the US in its private conversations actually urging New Delhi to abide by this international treaty?
Faisal, Qaid-e-Azam basically gave us a clear policy, and that policy was that Kashmir is the jugular vein of Pakistan. Reason being that the Indus River system basically irrigates 80% of Pakistan's farmland. It is 25% of Pakistan's GDP, and 65% of the labor force basically earns from it. No nation in the world can survive without water.
Definitely.
And if India violates Indus Water Treaty, it is suspended now, and it builds the dams, then according to international law, it provides a just war criteria. And our operations inside Kashmir, be it conventional or subconventional, will be justified under international law, because we will have to damage their gates at least to allow the inflow of water into Pakistan. And if diplomacy, the pinpoint diplomacy fails, which I think to an extent is failing because the world is too busy in Russia-Ukraine war, condemning Israel only, they are not doing anything on that, and preparing for strikes inside Iran. So the world is not realizing that the unjustly acts of India will have consequences for South Asia.
Your point well taken. Your point well taken. Dr. Waseem, is it not the appropriate time to spread the word about Indian hegemonic designs under under its terrorism-oriented Hindutva Hitler policies, especially regarding the illegal, unilateral and unconstitutional revocation of the Article 370 and 35A, snatching Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir special status, then worst genocide, war crimes and ethnic cleansing going on, including the important one, the demographic changes which are there. So how do you see that? How Pakistan has to surge its diplomacy regarding Kashmir, because world is right now listening Pakistan very carefully.
Faisal, if you just have analysis of Prime Minister Modi's last 3 tenures, he has always tried to diplomatically isolate Pakistan. Unfortunately, he has failed miserably from his perspective, and Pakistan has come out to be a most responsible nuclear nation state, aspiring and trying and striving for the regional stability, and wants to be a responsible member of the international community. The world has realized this, and the world welcomes Pakistan's initiatives for regional peace and stability. And this is about time now, once the world has started listening to Pakistan as a responsible member of international community, it is right time for us now to apprise the international community of whatever India has been unjust actions we have been doing in Kashmir, sponsoring state-sponsored terrorism inside Pakistan, and also on host of conflictual issues along with the diplomatic isolation of Pakistan. So the world is listening, and our diplomatic channels have been revitalized and rejuvenated. So I think this is the most appropriate time where we can unleash the proactive diplomacy and apprise the international community and get the resolution of long-standing Kashmir issue. And this is the international obligation of all the post-World War II international organizations, especially the United Nations and the great powers, the United States, China, and Russia. And at this point in time, all are favorably poised towards Pakistan. They are listening to Pakistan, and Prime Minister Modi feels marginalized in the evolving regional order. So therefore, I think we just continue to push hard with our diplomatic efforts and need to, as I highlighted previously, also accentuate with different tiers of engagement at the academia level, at the media level, at the civil society level, so that the synergetic application of all elements of national power would accrue large dividends in a minimum possible time.
Definitely, you are absolutely right, because from the traditional diplomatic principles and the practices, we have to approach as well to the film, drama, media, the other kind of diplomacy, the public diplomacy, the cultural diplomacy and heritage diplomacy. That is going to pay Pakistan a lot, and we have to urgently emphasize on all these aspects. So, Dr. Waseem, what could be the evidence-based approach through key legal and diplomatic tools to counter India's narrative internationally, and how critical is to engage and mobilize the support of international media, the think tanks, the human rights entities on critical issues including Indus Water Treaty, unilateral suspension, then Indian state-sponsored terrorism in Pakistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and even in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and also the Kashmir issue, what kind of a human rights violations, the genocide and war crimes going on over there, to shift actually the global perception from fake Indian notions to the real-time ground realities.
I think Kulbhushan Yadav's case is one such empirically evidence and supported data which the world has acknowledged. And we have also seen the Indian state-sponsored terrorism. It was in Canada, it was in Qatar, it was in the United Kingdom. So therefore, the world has completely realized that how the Indian spy agencies and Indian government have been sponsoring terrorism, not only in Pakistan, but into other countries and other regions of the world. So therefore, we need to prepare empirical data with empirical evidences to support our arguments. And I think we can just take a small example from the way the DG ISPR and his team had been conducting our regular briefings through the media, both national and international media. Everything was supported with the data and supported with the empirical evidences, and mostly even in the recording case of the different Indian cases. So that's the good way of proving the fact, and also involving the international community for convincing with our arguments. So therefore, I fully support that we need to have evidence-based empirical data to support our arguments, and we have many. And we have many state institutions who can support us in building those arguments. And in that way, we, through our proactive diplomacy and very active engagement with the international institutions, with the great powers, with the regional powers, with the Muslim countries and the Gulf countries all around, we have a very good platforms set now. We just need to pursue our case, and we don't have to hesitate in reaching out to people from more than one times and two times. And I'm sure the time would come that once the world would realize that this nuclear flashpoint of Kashmir
you are absolutely
and
right,
Indian
Dr.
state
Waseem, absolutely right.
terrorism has
Hamza, but do you not think that what happened from 6th to 10th of May 2025 was not only a victory against a much larger enemy, but also Pakistan's narrative validation that speaks about Kashmir being the nuclear flashpoint and pertaining to the uprising in the global attitudes right now? We can convince the international community to resolve the Kashmir issue and the water issue once for all, while we unmask the real monster behind the curtain, that is India.
Pakistan is a responsible state. Let me ask you 4 questions. Who initiated the recent aggression? It was India.
Definitely, it was initiated by
Who
India.
always is the aggressor? India. Who is the victim of terrorism? Pakistan. And did Pakistan ever strike Hindustan? Never, for terrorism. We have to have a, we have to have a
Although if
concept.
India initiated that option, Pakistan
will
has to
respond.
exercise with if this is the precedent,
Yeah.
after every terrorist attack,
Yes.
we have to attack India. Is this the precedent?
Yes, that maybe, but we will come to that. On the nuclear flashpoint about Kashmir, let me give you a conceptual clarity that India will be the one for a nuclear flashpoint and not Pakistan, because Pakistan has proved that conventionally we are capable of defending ourselves and even launching counteroffensive. It will be India which is going to lose the ground in Kashmir if ever it happens. And despite having a clear-cut policy that it is not going to be the first one to use the nuclear weapons, it will be forced to use it. Secondly, we need to let the world know that India is violating Indus Water Treaty. It is becoming a hub of terrorism. It is sponsoring terrorism inside Pakistan. And now it is talking about attacking Pakistan's Kashmir, Pakistan-administered Kashmir. So world will need to pressurize India to resolve this issue, which I can predict India would never do that in the near future as well. And at that moment, the world will realize that it is India which is the monster, which is the hub of supporting terrorism, and sadly, Pakistan will be forced to give the manners to India which it actually understands. And we should hope for the best if diplomacy succeeds, and we should be prepared for the worst if diplomacy fails.
Your point well taken. Dr. Tauqeer, India is not accepting the third-party mediation, declining the bilateral engagements as well, intends to buy more time to linger on these critical issues that Pakistan is facing, like water, the Kashmir issue, the terrorism, even the Siachen and Sir Creek issues, because they are also in the back burner. Wants to impose Delhi's own nefarious designs. Don't bother, even if the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres advised so. Even the US President offered mediation, any kind of a mediation, and even stress about to initiate bilateral talks, calls from international organizations, even international community appeals for engagement. How there would be any sort of a diplomatic solution is possible when India is not ready to accept bilateral or multilateral fora. While in such a situation, many experts actually believe that this stalemate could trigger another hot conflict sooner or later. Your thoughts?
For enduring peace in South Asia, Faisal, it is very important that the resolution of Kashmir issue shall be done based on the United Nations resolutions as well as based on the aspirations of the people of Kashmir. It is very important, and it is categorical. And there is no negotiation on that. The rightful right of the people of Kashmir will be denied as part of the diplomacy or as part of the bargaining. So diplomacy is a two-way street. you cannot talk to a silent wall once you are inside. You need a partner. You need an active actor whose stakes are at stake, and you are going to address those stakes through dialogue, through delegation of communication in terms of mutual respect. Diplomacy is not a zero-sum game. It's a win-win situation, and the world has got lot of benefits out of diplomacy. But the international community needs to understand that they need to stop pampering India, because the way India has been given position and status in international system into the regional arrangements, just like Indo-Pacific strategy of United States. If you see United States bilateral agreements with India, where we come Comcasa, Limova, BACA, and these are all those arrangements which have been which has been done with India based on the nation of USA. So if the nation of USA is going to support the jingoism of India, the Balikon attitude of India, the Hindutva ideology and philosophy of India, and disrespecting the very norms of international law by unilaterally deciding and attacking on a sovereign nation based on false flag, please. So how that national interests of America would be served while having such kind of strategic agreements with India? So this is very important for the international community and international organizations to come forward and stabilize the international order, and they should not allow India to use international system only and always in its favor. That's the reciprocal arrangement. So that's why.
No doubt, no doubt. Dr. Waseem, what makes actually the post-crisis period so significant that India is in isolation internationally? Indian state lies about Pahalgam not sellable anymore. Godi media and the official fabricated narratives and contradictions during April-May conflict exposed and died down right now. All fictitious claims against Pakistan were thrown in the trash can, because now the world sees India with skepticism, through suspicions. Actually, the stage is set for Pakistan. Beside official delegations in our diplomatic missions, what we have to do actually to use our civil society through our diaspora abroad and the several other means to enhance our diplomatic posturing and diplomatic presence and the real-time narrative what Pakistan is actually spreading across the world, the ground realities and the truth of the matter.
Faisal, I think through these incidents of Pahalgam and post-Pahalgam, India has been exposed very badly. And I think from the US strategic priorities for this region, it was probably, from my analysis, is a setback. Because US national security strategy of 2017 had actually given a lot of space to India by portraying it the regional hub of US Indo-Pacific strategy. While the next US national security strategy of this Trump 2.0 is about to be published, and I think more or less it, in my analysis, contained the similar language of 2017. But having been seen the Indian diplomacy as well as Indian hard power, now the United States would think several times before delegating the same role for India for the wider China containment. And I think that should be a great setback for the United States. But in the hindsight, it's a great leverage and respect for Pakistan, who has come out to be a very responsible nuclear state. We used all elements of national power in sync, where diplomacy was at the lead, and we have used all the hard and soft powers in a highly synergetic manner. So from the overall perspective...
Your point well taken, Dr. Waseem, your point well taken. We have run short of time. So this is the question to you both, Hamza and Dr. Tauqeer. How vital is it to have the comprehensive review of our foreign policy? Because the global dynamics are changing rapidly. We have to leverage the existing opportunities, time, and reconfigure our priorities in the light of the grave challenges Pakistan is actually facing from India. It will help us actually to evaluate the policy, along with to identify the loopholes, refine it, and then it must be strategic rather tactical in diplomatic battlefield. How do you see that?
Foreign policy is one of the most important tools in terms of presenting pragmatic objectives to the world where you can bargain your interests.
Obviously.
On a fair level, win-win situation. So Pakistan's experience, keeping in view the overall geopolitical scenario, I have been very much optimistic that Pakistan, whenever it has been cornered into the space of geopolitics, geoeconomics, and geostrategy, Pakistan came up with a successful story to be told to its nation. Right now, the kind of complications we are seeing in terms of international relations, war, conflicts, insurgencies, terrorism is becoming the option for mad nations in the world. Pakistan relies on the peaceful coexistence and diplomacy as a mean to achieve its objectives. So which is why foreign policy side of Pakistan needs to apply diplomacy in a more robust way, which is why our institutions are doing great job. The Foreign Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been doing great job. Our missions abroad have been doing great job. Our delegates which are in the institutions like United Nations, they are doing great job. The way current government has started.
We should have to utilize other tools of diplomacy as well. That is very important.
I agree with you.
That is very important. Really. Please, Hamza, if you.
We have to focus on domestic policy as well. We have to change our military posture from defensive to defensive offensive now, because India has shifted.
By the way, it has already changed.
Yeah, it is already changed. And no, but we need to treat every act of terrorism inside Pakistan as an act of war as well. And internal stability is most important because it is going to guarantee us Kashmir that India knows and that India will not allow. And we are continuously providing it with the fault lines that India is expecting.
Actually, we are not an irresponsible nation as India is. So we don't want to actually portray that posture. Please, if you want.
Because I belong to academia and I understand the impact of a scholarship. If India has a 1 million army protecting its interest, you can deny that interest to India by having one professor. So there are Pakistan chairs abroad. They are vacant.
Yes.
So I would urge the government to actually fill those positions abroad where one professor can defeat the 1 million army.
Very valid point. Thank you very much, Dr. Tauqeer, for your presence here. Thank you very much, Hamza, for your presence. And I'm thankful to Dr. Waseem as well. I think so that his internet session is actually expired. So thank you very much, Dr. Waseem, for your presence. You are there. Thank you. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, in today's rapidly shifting geopolitical climate, Pakistan actually calibrating its diplomacy, and that is yielding positive results. With India's narrative actually losing credibility internationally and globally, the path is actually open for Islamabad to expand and expedite its outreach across the globe politically, legally and publicly by using robust and proactive strategic diplomatic drive. That is very important. This is a real test. We have to translate actually this whole our truth-based narrative into the lasting strategic gains for Pakistan, because it is inevitable now, and we have to use the rest of the tools of the diplomacy in a robust manner. Like we have films, we have to build this posturing, we have the documentary making, we have the media, we have our drama, we have our culture, traditions and sports even. We have to utilize our public diplomacy, the heritage diplomacy, the cultural diplomacy, because we are also the cradle of civilization when it comes to the Sikhism, when it comes to the Buddhist religion and all other religions. So they have the roots in Pakistan. So we have to utilize it. Pakistan is a very rich country. We have not only the traditional diplomacy. Traditional diplomacy is doing the great job, but we have to use the rest of the tools in a well-mannered, well-fashioned area, so we can get maximum fruits for Pakistan, because this is the time to strike now. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz on us.